Hey guys, I just wanted to pop in and say that this video is going to include a discussion of trauma, depression, suicidal ideation. I'm not going to go like super deep into detail about things, but there are going to be mentions of things like that. So I just wanted to kind of give you guys a heads up. Other than that, enjoy the video. Hello, lovely folks. My name is Lauren, and this is my channel where we discuss pop culture, social issues, and anything swimming around in this here brain of mine. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. I've had some pretty big life changes. A lot has changed, and if I'm going to be honest, I'm not doing very well. I'm now in therapy. My second therapy session is actually in a couple of days. But I haven't felt great mentally and emotionally and physically for a long time now. I have a pretty long history with mental health struggles, and I feel like it's pertinent to kind of go through all of it because it's all connected to where I am now. I also want to preface this with saying, while I have been through a lot of objectively shitty things in my life, I can also recognize that that I do have strength, and there is strength in that brokenness. So I don't want anybody to be like, oh, pity her, because that's just insulting to me. And two, I'm sharing this story in the interest of transparency and authenticity and wanting to hopefully touch somebody else who might also be going through the same thing. If you've been following this channel for a while, you'll notice that there are a lot of gaps in between the videos. And there's a reason for that, because big reasons obviously were that I had multiple jobs and I was also a full-time student. Those were like legitimate reasons why I just did not have time to film. But also, there were times where I was just not doing great. And I didn't want to post because everything had to be perfect for me to film and post a video. My hair had to be done. My room had to be clean. I didn't have to have any obligations, homework wise, academic wise. I had to be wearing makeup. I had to be wearing a cute outfit. All the stars had to align in order for me to do a video. And a lot of the times they didn't, so I just wouldn't post. Now that I'm here and I'm realizing that like it's okay not to be all put together all the time, the content that you post is worthy regardless of the condition that you were in when you filmed it. So I'm trying to embrace that. I have so many ideas for this channel, like video wise, but I felt like it would just be weird and like disingenuous to myself, and also to other people, if I didn't explain and express like how I've been feeling and where my head's at lately. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get into it. It is going to be a lot. I'm gonna try my best to, have a little bit of levity in here and, not dwell too much on some of the more, I would say, triggering parts. This is essentially my life story, so there gonna be some rough stuff. So just as a warning. So let's get into it. As long as I can remember, I have had anxiety, like intense anxiety. I remember having a lot of irrational fears when I was a child. I was afraid of spiders eating me. I was afraid of, which honestly, go down under, mate. You'll see some crazy creatures, some crazy critters up in there. If y'all have seen some of the things that have come out of that island, no. My other fears as well have been connected to, I was afraid of blenders. I thought if I just looked at a blender like wrong or just looked at one, then my hand would like get cut off, which is again very irrational. But me as like I think I was like 5 at the time, like I thought every single thing was like danger. I also did not like loud noises. I hated vacuums. I didn't like the sound of flushing toilets. I would like cover my ears every single time I flushed the toilet. Didn't like going through car washes because I thought that those like little rubber things would like come alive and bust through the window and eat me. And yeah, those are just like a few of the many fears I had. That like situational anxiety slowly started morphing into like generalized anxiety, just which is what I actually have now. And yeah, it got worse. Once I got into like around the 5th grade or so, I was around 10, 11, I started getting bullied, mainly for my weight and for being black. I was one of the only black students like in my class, and it was an advanced class, and so that's unheard of, apparently. I developed really early. Like around 10, I already had a boobs and a butt when I was 10 years old. And so my body was like very different from a lot of the people in my grade because I already looked like I had matured. There were a lot of comments made about my body that just were not great for my self-esteem, for my confidence, for my, I mean, especially during that time, you're developing and you're already kind of being more conscious of your body. And so this was just adding on to that heap, which was not great. I think this is also the time where my anxiety around perception came from, because of these people who are my peers were perceiving me in this negative way. I started to perceive myself in this negative way. And then I automatically thought that that was the default, that everybody, even adults, like any people I didn't know, were perceiving me in this way, negatively. So I was just very paranoid and like self-conscious. I developed a lot of self-consciousness during this time. The bullying got to a point where my parents were like, all right, we're taking her out. They started homeschooling me. I would say this is a good segue into family. I grew up in a very religious household, and a lot of that affected me mentally, like a lot. I am going to make a separate video about my experience with religion and Christianity, and now like how I'm deconstructing that, which is like what I'm doing right now. But essentially, I grew up being taught that if you invited Jesus into your heart, you would become saved and live forever. But if you didn't,
you'd go to hell.
And they'd place a lot of emphasis on like the feeling that you get when you do believe. And 12-year-old me wasn't feeling that joy or that like special like razzmatazz, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't feeling that at all. And this is what led to what I would call my first depressive episode. I, for more than a year, was constantly agonizing about the afterlife, where I was gonna go, death, just a lot of existential things that were like, you know, why am I even here? What is my purpose? I don't know why, what am I not doing right? Why am I not feeling this joy? And it was just like a constant deluge of negativity, dark thoughts. I was very, very, very and I was very isolated. I was like started to isolate myself. I didn't really have any kids my age in the neighborhood, and all I was doing was like doing homeschool work, which also was a Christian-based curriculum. So it's not like I could like, you know, escape the constant fear and terror over these, you know, values and these things that I was not feeling. I was very depressed. I was suicidal at this point. My parents finally put me back into school. About 2 years had passed, so this was like end of middle school, like 7th grade, and they realized that I was like becoming a kid hermit. I was not leaving the house. If I did leave the house, even if it was to check the mail, I was very self-conscious. I didn't want people to see me. I was like just constantly in my head about everything. And so they were like, you know what? This kid she need to go back into civilization. Like send her in. As for my family, I have just been exposed to a lot of emotional, psychological, sexual, religious, and sometimes physical abuse. The people close to me know all the details and like the moving pieces of like what went down with my parents and why what led to our estrangement. So I don't want to get into that here. It's just a lot. There's a lot of moving pieces, and it's a lot. It's a lot. As I reached high school, being in public school was very helpful, but my anxiety and low self-esteem still remained. And I would say in large part that was because of my parents. My mom would make comments about my body like, "Oh, you're gaining weight, Lauren J," or like she would make comments about like my portion sizes, and she would always be like, "Your metabolism right now is really quick. Like you could lose weight like this," and stuff like that. Like she would say like, "You don't want to get to my age where it's so hard to lose weight, blah 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 blah." This was something that was like from a young age. I would say probably like elementary, middle school that she was saying. But then she'd turn around and she'd quote that scripture from the Psalms, "You are fearfully and wonderfully made." And she got into this like really like homeschool mom-esque era where she essentially would like make little plaques and like quotes, like put quotes, like use cardstock and like frame them. And like, I mean, okay, but she would like put them in all of our rooms and all the kids' rooms. And she put one that said, "You're fearfully and wonderfully made," in mine. She would like say these things like, "Oh, watch your portions," and "Oh, you can lose weight now before you get older." And then she'd quote that scripture, and then she'd say, "I don't make ugly kids," whenever I would like express to her that I'm having low self-esteem. So I'm like, what is the truth? Like I was so confused. I was like, okay, huh? My self-esteem, this was like what, like freshman year of high school, was like down in the dumpster during this time. It was very bad, and I eventually stopped eating. I would just drink like a lot of water. I would eat like one like fold over peanut butter sandwich a day, which is like if you've ever had like only one piece of bread left and you make a peanut butter jelly out of it, and you just like fold it over to make like a half sandwich. That's what I was eating. And so I remember my parents, they had gone on a trip of some sort. I think they were going to somebody's wedding. By the time they came back, I was noticeably smaller. And that's when they finally realized, oh, this kid needs help. You know what's so funny about it though is they got upset that I was like not doing it right, that I was depriving of myself wrongly. My mom was like, "If you really want to lose weight, like you got to do it a different way, like you got to do it the wrong way," you know what I mean? And like there was very little like, "Oh, are you okay? How's your mentals going?" Like, you just okay. It's my laundry, adult things. Anyway, she was upset that I was like doing it the wrong way, but she wasn't like upset that I was like doing it at all. You know what I mean? Like that I felt like emotionally distressed enough to do this, to my body. So, but that aside, she took me to this like dietitian person who was like specialized in weight loss. I was prescribed these 2 pills. One was like an appetite suppressant, and then the other one was metformin, which is for pre-diabetics, and essentially it's supposed to like decrease like my sugar levels or something like that, because I guess maybe I was pre-diabetic. But it's so weird because like I was a pretty typical size, or average size leading up to this. But it's so weird because I thought I was so huge, you know what I mean? And I thought I was like way like overweight, which like the BMI BS. I could make another video about that, but it was made in the 1800s, by the way. I don't know if you guys remember or if you guys were privy to that information, but it's outdated and fat phobic. So there's that. So my mom, did this, put me on this program to take these medicines, and that lasted for like maybe a month or so, or maybe 2. It was like a good while, but she got upset with me because I was just taking the pills, but I wasn't like working out any extra than I already was, which was like my idea of working out was like just being active, like walking to school and stuff. And she was like, well, we're not going to pay for these pills if you're not going to like do all the work that you can do. So I was like, okay. So they canceled that. From then, I don't think I had as terrible as as noticeable of a disordered eating pattern, but the effects on my body image still remained, and they still do remain to this day. My freshman year of college was probably one of the worst years of my life. I was homesick, but I was also feeling this really weird guilt as well, because I was like, for the first time ever, living outside of my family. They lived like 2 hours away from campus still, but like still, living on my own essentially. And my idea of like being like wild, or like going buck wild, which is like what they say freshmen do whenever they go off to college, which is like kind of a stereotype. I don't really care. Be safe, have fun. I'm not going to judge somebody if they go out and party and stuff. But at the time, I was a hard judger of those people. And my idea of being buck wild was going to Walmart at 1 a.m. And that, if that does not tell you how sheltered of a child I was, I do not know what will. Oh my God, I'm a Walmart, Wally World. It's tomorrow. Grab the Nilla wafers. Like, I would feel guilty about that, because I'd be like, what would my parents be thinking of me being out this late, going to the absolute party on the block that is Walmart. I would feel guilty for like listening to like more Beyonce songs, you know what I mean? Like, and we grew up listening to like old 80s R&B and pop and like stuff like that. But, songs that like Drunken Love, that have like that have shit in it. Like, I was like very scared to like listen to songs that had curse words in them. This led to this really weird cognitive like dissonance almost of like, I miss my home and my parents, but I also like have this newfound freedom, and like they don't know about this, and like I would be scared, if they did, because I wouldn't want to be judged, blah 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 blah. Also, I had tried to make friends at this point, but they weren't super receptive to a friendship. And to be fair, I understand, I get it, because I was a lot. I was very annoying. I'm not even gonna lie. I was very annoying as a freshman. I was living in a new state. I was almost culture shocked because I was coming to Missouri from Maryland. The only similarity is that they start with the same letter. That was literally it. It was really bad. September rolls around and I have my first suicide attempt. And I didn't end up going to the hospital, but I was required to do this like emergency counseling, like crisis counseling. I do think it was helpful. My therapist was very nice and good at what she did and very thorough. The only thing is I didn't like about it was that it was not long term. It was specifically meant to be like short term. Like we only got 10 sessions, so it wasn't like I could go like for a whole year or something like that. So I eventually quit therapy. I used up all my sessions really towards the end of the semester of my first semester of freshman year. And I'm thinking like I'm doing way better. Like, yeah, I'm still kind of depressed, but at the same time, like, I've made a lot of progress. I think I'm in a good enough headspace that I wouldn't go back to that dark place where I'd consider, something that drastic. But I ended up having a panic attack during finals week, which was like 2 weeks after I had stopped therapy. I flunked my statistics final, or at least I thought I flunked it, and I thought that I was gonna get a failing grade. Very, very anal about my grades at this point, and they meant a lot to me. And so I had a panic attack. I called my friends, my friends at the time, who called the RA, and then the RA called like the hall coordinators, which is basically like the administrators of the building, of the dorm. And then they called an ambulance, and I was taken into the psychiatric ward for overnight. I spent overnight there because my friends didn't feel comfortable enough watching over me for the night, which was very understandable. I get it. The next morning, my parents had come up because I had called them the night before saying, hey, I'm in the psych ward, just to let you know. And so my doctor who had treated me came out and was like, listen, this girl needs drugs. Like, she needs something, either like sustained counseling for several months, or medicine. I highly recommend medicine. Look into Lexapro, look into Zoloft. You remember how I mentioned that I grew up in a religious household? Well, that also included a hesitancy towards medication. My parents were of the idea that I just needed to pray more. I just needed to like do counseling, or I just needed to study the Bible more, meditate more, go to church more, and really focus more on God. And they were kind of, I would say, like anti-medication at the time. Now I don't believe they are, but at the time, like my mom had been on anxiety medication, and she said, it made my brain really foggy, so I don't want you to be on it. And I was like, okay. So didn't get on medication, even though it was very much recommended, because I had been clinically diagnosed at the time with depression and anxiety. Don't get me wrong, I still believe in God and I still pray. I also believe that if you need pills, take the pills, okay? Like, these beliefs that I grew up with were very detrimental to my mental health, because they focus so much on, like, you aren't doing enough. Like, you need to pray more, you need to do XYZ more, you need to do yada, yada, yada. So it made me feel even worse about myself. Fast forward to 2020, this was like a couple of months after that. We're in the house. Okay, we're bored in the house, and we're in the house bored. I don't know if any other families dealt with this when the pandemic hit, but a lot of stuff came out when we were all in the house together. A lot came out about things that my parents had done in the past. That ultimately led to my sister and I moving out. We really were kicked out, but that's neither here nor there. I have not talked to my dad since June of 2020. My mom was still in the picture, but she did and said some pretty wretched things in the months following, and that eventually led to me not talking to her either. So we were estranged for over a year. And I hadn't spoken to her in over a year until she randomly came to my graduation in December, which was like 3 months ago. So still pretty fresh. And she just randomly showed up after I had not spoken or like heard or seen her in like a year and a half. That was terrible. She did that as very much a stunt. She did not do that for me. She didn't come up to show up for me. She did that for herself. She liked to say all the time, like, I'm your mother, especially in the early stages of like us not talking to her. She would like to say, like, I'm your mother, you can't erase me, like, from your life. I'm always going to be your mother, like, you can't get rid of me. She can't be in my life. I'm sorry. I know that it can be like a drastic decision, and it sounds drastic to a lot of people, especially people who may be close with their families and couldn't like imagine that. But I was that person too. I was very close with my parents. I mean, I resented them for a lot of the things that they did, but in the type of religion that we were in, it did indoctrinate us a lot to be like, you know, I felt like a burden all the time. Like, honor your father and mother. Like, they would say a lot of the times, like, we do all these things for you, you know, we bust our ass for you, blah, 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 blah. The least you could do is do X, Y, and Z. Them being in my life would be far more detrimental to every aspect of my health than them not being in my life. So, yeah. My anxiety has affected every facet of my life. I've lost friends because of my anxious attachment style, lost potential romantic interests because of my anxious attachment style and just anxiety in general. And like, not all of it was like my fault, obviously. Like, you know, some people are not great. I was searching after like these friendships and like trying to make them work because I wanted to feel validated and I wanted to feel like people wanted to be around me even though I couldn't stand myself. I wanted validation from other people because I thought that I was invalid as a person. I couldn't validate myself. I couldn't say, hey, like you rock, like you're good. Oh my God. That was the most Disney Channel shit I've ever said. But like, you know what I mean? Like you're great. You're fantastic. Like I couldn't do that for myself. So I felt like I needed to get into friendships with people to show myself like, hey, you have friends, you have people that actually love you. And it's like when those relationships failed, like it wasn't good. I recently had a huge life change. I just graduated college, started a new job. And while I am grateful for the opportunity to like have been able to just like jump right into a job after college, my mental health has plummeted to dangerous levels. I work to produce the morning newscasts at the local news station here in Virginia. There are parts of it that I love, and then there's also a lot of parts of it that I can't stand, mainly the hours. I don't get enough sleep. I have a polyphasic sleep schedule now, which basically means that I get my sleep in spurts. So like I'll go to sleep for a couple hours, wake up, and then try to fall back asleep. Once I fall back asleep, I'll sleep for like an hour and a half and then go back to sleep 2 hours. And like it's really unhealthy. I did have some suicidal ideation recently. This was like early last month. So I'm doing better now and I haven't been in that headspace for a few weeks. But it did get to a point at the news station where I was just like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done with life. I'm done with this show. I can't do this anymore. Producing is something that I'm good at and I do like to do sometimes, but the amount of terrible freaking news that comes through that we have to like write about is insane. It's like shooting. I remember I had 5 shootings in my show at one point. People's houses catch on fire all the time. People kill their own family members all the time. And it's just like, I am too emotional of a person to be able to detach myself from that stuff and not bring it home with me after I'm done with my shift. I am very much a, soft news girly. I love a good, puppy pet drive. I love a good, we actually just had one of those recently, and I loved it. I love a good, local food bank, giving back to the community, like, nonprofits. I love culture, dance, those things. And I hate hard news. I really hate it. And it's made me not like my job. And I've talked to my boss about this, so she knows. So this is not like news to anybody, but I knew that being like a real adult, like in the real world, was going to be very difficult. But like I have a lot of bills that I'm kind of behind on. I am behind on. I keep getting phone calls from like my phone company being like, if you don't pay this bill, we're cutting you off. And it's like, you could have emailed me then. Clearly you haven't cut me off yet because I can still answer the phone. So I digress. AT&T, please don't come for me. I need my phone. It's been hard. I am basically breaking even every single month. I was really hoping like once I graduated college that I'd be able to like have like one job, one income that can provide for everything and not have to have 11 million jobs like I did in college. But I'm gonna have to, I've been applying to some part-time jobs because it's been very difficult to cover everything because things come up. My car is broken right now. She needs some repairs. I can still drive her, but very short distances. It's a long story. I realized like after all of these things were happening for these past couple of months and the rate of decline that my mental and physical health were getting to, I was like, Something needs to change. Something's not right. I had an epiphany like this back in 2021 when I went on that trip with my friends. I had this sort of epiphany that like you need to change something when I went on this trip, and I lost friendships because of that. I lost, friends, and I will say like I'm still hurt by that because I don't feel like it ended. We didn't really flush things out. Sometimes you don't get closure all the time. And it sucks, but like I said, I had a lot of anxiety, and like I don't think they knew how to process that. I feel like I've changed a lot since then, and at least part of my anxiety has like gone down considerably, so it would have been nice if they would have like given me some time. But that's kind of water under the bridge at this point. Like they've moved on. I'm trying to move on too. That was like one of the times that I had that epiphany that I was like, okay, your anxiety is doing shit to your life. It's messing your relationships. It's messing with your like physical health. Cause I was like starting to like have a lot of flare ups with my autoimmune disease. It was not great. And so you need to change. And that's when I finally got on medicine. Because at that point, my parents did not have a say in anything. That was life-changing for me. And so I think this new breakdown of like at work, I'm not doing great, that new epiphany, I think is like what led me to realize like I need a fresh start, and I need to do something to change this. Because otherwise I don't know if I'll be alive. Like if I'm going to be completely honest. So I'm in therapy now, and that I think is the first step towards finally becoming free of this burden of my past. And I'm really excited about it because I've been carrying around that burden for far too long, and I'm ready for that freedom. That's basically it. If you are going through anything like this, please know that you're not alone. I know that's cliche as hell, but it is just true. It's like statistically, factually, factual. There's thousands of people, millions of people who are struggling with very serious, very real things. So know that you're not by yourself. We can start our healing journeys together, okay? I love to hear it, love to see it. There's a comment section for a reason. Part of what I actually really love about YouTube is interacting with people in the comments. Like there's still people who comment on my videos from like 2 years ago. I'm like, yeah, not even just on my own videos, but like on other creators' videos. I love interacting with other people because it really does make you feel like, wow, there's thousands of people out there like with whole ass lives and whole ass feelings and experiences and backgrounds and pasts and issues and problems just like I do. And they're at the same extent and like same intensity that I feel. Like these people are feeling all these things too. That's all I have for you guys today. Stay safe, stay sane, and know that you are not alone. You are not alone. I am still here with you. Okay, I'm gonna cut it. Bye, guys.